So many investors believe the key to financial freedom is making more money, right? Actually, this is not the first question you should be asking.
In today's episode, we have Annie Cole. She is a money coach and investor, and she's going to be sharing with you a framework you can follow, not just to make more money, but to also invest in what fires you up and ultimately build generational wealth. Stay tuned.
All right, InvestHER Plus is officially live, and it's everything you've been waiting for.
We're talking AI power networking to connect you with other investors who are serious about building their portfolio, not just dreaming about it.
You'll get access to Market Master Her, our step-by-step ebook that will help you master any market, and an on-demand real estate fundamentals course that will help you build your confidence. Add nationwide chapter access, exclusive discounts worth over $6,000, and a 21-day meditation guide because, hey, balance is key.
This isn't just another networking platform. This is a one-stop shop for you to make deeper connections and build wealth. Start investing in yourself. Click the link below and join InvestHER Plus today.
Welcome to the InvestHER Podcast. I'm Liz Faircloth.
And I am your co-host, Andressa Gadelli. So, Annie, a lot of investors have one goal: make more money. If you can relate, raise your hand, whatever you are. So, for those folks that have that goal, is that the right path? Is that the right advice that they're receiving?
It honestly really depends. I have this 5-step framework that I tend to think about when I think about finances and working with women. And step number 1 is actually all about mindset and vision. And I think that is so important. And that actually comes before how much money do you want to make? Because we know there are people making so much money that are spending it all, living paycheck to paycheck, or they're investing in something that is really not aligned to their values. It's draining them. So if you don't have a vision first, making more money might not actually make you happy.
So let's break that down, because now I'm curious about this framework that you just mentioned about, right?
Andressa loves frameworks and step-by-step.
My love language. It's my love language. Framework, steps, my love language, right?
No,
so what you're saying is that it's okay to have those financial goals, considering that they are aligned with your values. You know why you're investing. It fires you up versus simply investing just to invest. Is that right?
Absolutely.
So let's break down. Where are the other steps? Now I'm curious.
What is really interesting, I'd say the way that I came up with this framework is that I realized myself, I was really motivated by the exact same thing you said. I just wanted to make more money. I got my first job out of college and thought, how can I make more money? But I realized over time that there's actually 5 different pieces that if you put them in order, make money more valuable in your life. So the framework is 5 steps. Step number 1 is that mindset and vision, knowing where you want to go in your life. Step number 2 is actually crunching the numbers. So you are going to either create a budget, create an outline of what you want to do in your life. So what kind of lifestyle you want to live and how much that's going to cost. And that actually guides step number 3, creating income. So instead of jumping to income, we have a vision. We know how much we actually want to make and why we want to make it. We jump to number 3, which is creating income. Number 4 is growing our money. So that's where investments come in. And sometimes we end up blending 3 and 4 if you're doing some investment to create your main income source. And then number 5 is more maintaining lifestyle and habits, where we develop a sustainable plan for you to keep the lifestyle going that you've created. But yeah, a lot of people just lean on step number 3, creating money, and they miss out on all these other great things.
And they don't know why they're miserable.
Yes.
And they hate the hell out of investing.
Yeah.
Because it's not in alignment. And then they're like, oh, this really does not work. There's a lack of alignment in there. And then sometimes it's easier, quote unquote, easier to blame the strategy, the mentor, the market, the property, the contractor versus going back. So I really love the framework that you are proposing here, because it forces women to really sit down and think through before just putting a number on paper.
I love the idea of like the crunching the numbers so you can get a sense of, okay, what do I really want and need? We hear this all the time, right? We have a mentorship program and the women apply to it. It's called Strive. And we hear it all the time. I'm at 5 doors. I want 30 doors. And so then the question becomes, do they really need 30 doors? Do they just want 30 doors, right?
Do they just like the number 30?
Or do they like the number 30? So when somebody's doing number 2 in particular, right, crunching the numbers, what are some questions they can ask themselves? What are some thought-provoking questions, if you will, so they can get really honest with themselves and really clear?
The questions are really easy and reflective. It would be if you opened up your journal and you started writing down, what do I want my life to look like? Start with those things that are really intangible. Like, I'd love to live in this kind of house. I want to spend time with my family 5 nights a week. I want to be not working in the evening, so I have time with them. I want to afford the organic groceries. I want to pay for 2 trips a year, whatever those things are. And then after you've written down the dream life, then you turn it into numbers. And I think that's what a lot of people haven't done. And actually, my husband and I were talking about this recently because we're both entrepreneurs, and we've talked about what is enough, because at some point you might make plenty of money. You don't need to make more money. Are you making more money to feel pride in yourself because you're a high achiever? Like, what is that that's driving you? Because at some point, it might not actually be what you want, but it seems like it's what you want.
It's funny, right? Because I don't cook. I just don't.
You do cook, though, Andres. You're lying to everyone right now, by the way. You're a great cook.
Let me explain before people start labeling me as liar. So I was not born with that talent of cooking. I'm like, I can't wait to go and cook a meal. That's not me. I don't know what to do when the meal is tasteless or is like too salty. I don't know when people say, oh, you can fix that. I don't know how to fix it. The reason why I'm saying this, and I enjoy doing Friendsgiving once in a year, and I cook for my core friends. And they come over, and it's very simple. But what you're saying there, Anne, is that the feeling that I have last year, this year, following year, that's what I'm chasing. The feeling, how it makes me feel, how it make them feel, the connection of it. My income, I don't even know what was my income. Like, if I compared, it's not related to my income, but that is part of my dream life, to have meaningful connections where I have people in my house. So I love what you're saying, for the simple fact that a lot of women in our community have that portfolio that they work hard to get. And they're saying, oh, I need to buy 5 more properties because I need to cash flow this much so I can leave my job, or so I can you blank. That being said, I think number 2, the budgeting piece over there. I bet here many do not have a pulse on their current portfolio, and they might not even need to expend, but they don't have a pulse on their current portfolio. So if somebody relates to it that are listening, what are the next steps in terms of the budgeting piece? Because that's not an excitement that I would say, yeah, I can't wait to go do budgeting, right? Yeah. But what is the next step for them?
Well, it's funny you say that, because of course I'm a financial coach, so I do nerd out on budgeting spreadsheets. So if you really hate that part of it, hire someone to do it for you. Quite honestly,
Yes.
Have someone else do it for you. That is a simple way to do it when it comes to anything with spreadsheets and finances. But practically for yourself, it can be very, very simple. It doesn't have to be complicated. You can open up a blank spreadsheet. You can put in the basics for your property, whether that's just your monthly payment, your monthly income. Have one tab that's your expenses, one tab that's your income, and then have one of those for every property. That could be as simple as it gets, and then you can get more complicated from there. But you might be surprised at what the numbers are actually telling you. And what if your cash flow is actually great, but because you're not tracking, you're just spending a little bit on groceries or on trips or on whatever it is you do, and the money just falls through the cracks sometimes, and we don't realize how much we have because we're not watching what we're spending. So the tracking can be really eye-opening.
So are you saying that the thoughts in my head might be different than the spreadsheet?
Absolutely. I am so guilty of this. Even, no one's perfect. I spend all the time and I'll think, oh, I didn't spend that much. And then I go check once a month, my bank statements and I think, oh, I spent way more than I thought. So it's just so easy to do. We live in a consumer economy. That's just how it is.
I think though that there's a skill here that gets underestimated. You have women listening to this that's never maybe bought a property before, and then you have women who are building their portfolios. If I've never bought a property, budgeting your personal household is such an important skill because you're building that muscle for your property that you want to buy. And so it's not just budgeting to like stay, oh, I don't want to get Starbucks this week. But I remember budgeting. My husband and I lived below our means. He quit his job. I kept working, and we were building our portfolio, and we had a budget, and we were both like, we stuck to that budget, and we even were under our budget so that
You're hired.
Am I hired for that? but I'm saying that, and I'm not someone who like loves numbers, but it's important to build that muscle so that you could apply it to a flip or a rental, because that's what it's all about, is managing the project. So everyone listening, get off my high horse here. You got to build that muscle, because if you're not going to build it on your own household, it's really hard to build on an investment property that you think you're spending $30,000 to renovate, but you're actually spending $50,000. That's going to kill your project. So I can't reiterate that enough. Are there particular practices that you do? Do you schedule, what does your schedule look like when it comes to creating the budget and then actually managing the budget? What does that look like from like a scheduling perspective? Because that's where people fall off. They get the idea, they get the concept, they put it into a spreadsheet, and then they forget it for like a year and like, oh shit, I was supposed to do that. Right. So what do you, excuse my French, but what do you actually put in your, calendar to manage that budget and to review it and make adjustments?
That's a great question. So I try to keep it as simple as possible. And I recommend that other people do the same, because the more complicated you make it, especially if it's not a habit already, it will feel like too much of a burden. So the more you can make it enjoyable, I've seen other people make a whole day out of their, once a month, they go buy their favorite coffee, they sit in their favorite chair and they have their blanket and they're cozy and they're doing their stuff on their laptop. So however you can make it awesome, do that. But at minimum, I have a budgeting sheet that it pretty well lays out what I'm going to do for the whole year. So I'm not doing a ton of changes to it unless something happened. But I am doing once a month. I'm looking over all of my household bills. I'm looking at my budget. I'm updating any of the numbers. And then I'm also looking for opportunities to make adjustments. I might not do that every month, but at least every couple months, I'm looking to see, for example, in my personal life right now, I have health insurance that I'm paying out of pocket because I'm working for myself. So I have a dentist who's offering a payment program where you can come in and just pay to get your dental cleaning, which is really all I need. So I'm thinking about dropping my dental insurance because I crunched the numbers and found that paying for that is probably more than paying just what I need at the doctor's office. So that's just a little example of, if you check it once a month, it will be top of mind and you'll see, oh yeah, I'm still paying for that subscription, or I'm spending a lot in this area, but it's actually not bringing me value. And then you'll just adjust as you go and really find that over time you're spending in alignment with how you want to spend.
I really love that. And I do take myself to a coffee shop and do get myself a caramel latte in order for me to do that every month. And that's how I buy myself. I'm cheap. I don't need a big trip overseas in order for me to force myself to look at my budget. Caramel latte does it for me. So I do that. And then I get the opportunity to see, for example, if I look at every month, there are certain subscriptions that they show up annually, right? For me. So I can catch them up the month of. And many times I'm like, I even forgot about this. I'm actually going to call them and refund me, because 100 here, 80 there, 50 here, 50 there, it does make a difference. And I'm not even using it. And if I don't look at it monthly, I won't catch that up. Right. And I think that this is a muscle, as you were saying. It's a muscle that we do it and we have it. That's the only way, ladies, that all of you that are listening, if you're looking to grow your portfolio and build generational wealth, being good friends with the numbers, there's no other way. Otherwise, you're going to scale chaos. and then you don't know where the money and the efforts are going. A lot of people, I think it boils down to a mindset shift too, right? They have this image of how their properties are looking, how it's not cash flowing, or how much actually your property manager is getting paid. You'll be surprised how many people don't know the recurring and the extra fees per door. But if that's you, take a look. There is a difference between cannot afford, like this sentence, I cannot afford to hire a project manager, a property manager, a lawyer, an accountant. So I am doing all my bookkeeping. I am doing all in myself. And there's value into it. But what I want to get to the bottom line here is the word, how powerful the sentence is when I say I cannot afford. Break it down for me, Anne. How does that hold people back from truly building generational wealth?
It's a hard one. And it's so common. I have said that to myself many, many times. I know many women feel that way. But if you can just shift, and I wish I could give credit to the person that said this, but I remember reading one time, shifting the words to what would it take to make it possible? So I think when it comes to money manifestation and beliefs about money, sometimes people try to go too far. And instead of saying, I can't afford it, they say, I can afford everything. I have all the money in the world. And those sort of affirmations don't sit well because they feel too far from reality. So I like asking the interim questions, which are more like, how could I make this happen? What would it take? And if you start to ask those questions, you get really creative type thinking. So then you'll start saying, well, honestly, to do that, I would need a mentor. I would need someone to help me with this. I would need this. I would need this. And you start coming up with a list, and then you actually have some action steps you can take. So I think it's extremely powerful to start asking, how can I afford this? And the other thing I'd say on the mindset piece is a lot of people are afraid of numbers, number crunching in general. It just seems really intimidating. It seems boring. But I would also shift you to think there's so much excitement and opportunity in the numbers. So for example, what if you have 8 doors? You want to get to 30, but you don't realize your 8 doors, if you were to actually lean in and raise your rent a little bit or improve the property this much and make a sale. If you crunch those numbers, what if you actually were already where you want to be, but you didn't know that because you never crunched the numbers? Those are the kind of realizations that people can have when they lean into the numbers.
I think one thing that people are thinking right now as they're listening is I'm not a numbers person. And I think I'm so tired, especially hearing that from women, that they're not numbers people. Because who's born as a numbers person? I mean, yes, there are people who are analytical and technical, but I don't think it's like we're bestowed, what's the word, as a numbers person. And I think it's a skill, and I do think it can get developed, just like leadership. It's a skill that can get developed. I think there's natural abilities, of course. So if someone is listening to this and they're like, I'm not a numbers person, it's almost like they have to sell themselves on why it's so important, but yet they want to build wealth. Like you can't have both, right? So what are the steps or the work, right, that someone needs to do to get there?
It's like saying, like, I would love to have a garden with so many flowers, but I'm not a gardener.
Yeah, exactly. I think I'll just share a really short story that sold me on the numbers personally, and I hope it inspires some people who are listening. So I was working in a job. I had a high-level executive role. I wanted to retire early, and I had already been setting aside quite a bit in my investment accounts. I also had real estate investments. I had a lot going on, and I thought maybe I'd retire in my 50s. And one day I opened up a calculator online, and I just thought, how low can I get this number? And I kept punching in different numbers. Like if I set aside this much, if I upped my investments by this much, if I cut out this expense, and I got the number all the way down to, I think, 42. And I was blown away. I would have never, if I wouldn't have used that calculator, I would have never known that was possible. I would have still been going through life thinking, well, I can still retire when I'm in my 50s, but retiring at 42, like that's a game changer. That changes everything about my life I'm 35 now, 35 to 42. What if that was all I had to do to become financially independent? So the numbers they can be life changing. And I hope that really hits home for folks. And if you feel like, okay, I'm bought in now I want to go figure out how to do it. There are so many online calculators available. If you're not a numbers person, just look up a number. I mean, if it's, I want to retire, I want to invest in the stock market. I'm sure there are tons of real estate calculators online. I have a bunch of my own spreadsheets that I use. So you can also, look up a spreadsheet that someone has built for you, but there's a lot of things that will do the work for you. So you can just plug in your numbers. Yeah.
Just to give an example too, when women have properties and they don't have a pulse on their numbers, that can kill them. Like we're saying, there is a woman that we were talking to in our recent retreat, our Strive Higher retreat. She's close to 30 doors. And she's like, honestly, I don't know what property is performing well, what's not. And it's overwhelming. 30 doors is overwhelming just to like, okay, I'm going to now analyze 30 doors. So here's the advice. And I want to share this with everyone listening too. Don't worry about 30 doors right now or the amount. Take your best performing property, could be a duplex, a single family, and what you perceive is the worst performing. And just take those two properties and start there, because there could be a lot of equity in one that you could be kind of deploying, if you will, or potentially repositioning. And then that worst one can bleed you, right? It could be bleeding you or not, but that's where it's a good place to start. And people always forget about the best performing properties. Those could be biggest game changer for your actual building wealth. We're actually going to be selling one of our properties we've had about 5 years. It's probably one of our highest grossing, passive income properties that, we live on. And we're like, if we redeployed the money that we would make, we're going to actually double our cash flow, double.
Wow.
And that's one of our best performing assets that him and I are like, we're never going to sell. It's our golden goose. And just by that, analyzing it, and that's fun. And I'm not even a numbers, quote unquote,
Yeah.
I'm not a numbers person, but I actually do like numbers when it tells me that I'm going to be doubling different things. So,
right.
Question for you in terms of like growing money, right? Growing the wealth, right? You're budgeting, you're getting a better handle. You're both invested in stocks and in real estate. So walk us through how you decide how you're navigating where to deploy your money. What are the questions? What are the steps that you take to say, yeah, I'm going to take that 50 grand, put it here versus there?
Yeah, there's actually calculations that I run that will tell me exactly what the difference is. So for example, I can say, if I put money in the stock market, the average return is going to be 10% growth on your money per year. So if I have $50,000, I have a calculator that will tell me if I put this into a property with this much cash flow and this is anticipated growth in the market of the value of the home over time, this is what this will look like in 30 years versus if I put this into a stock, this is what that will look like in 30 years. And I can make the comparison. So it's actually very easy to do once you have the calculations set up. For me personally, I have 3 doors right now. And my husband and I are kind of set. We're not looking to add additional doors because we are diversifying our income. So we have our real estate, we have our stock investments, and then we also are considering potentially investing in business to have another venture that's completely different. So yeah, that's where we're at. I think diversification is really important too. If you want to add more doors, you might also want to consider what else do you want to add to your portfolio. If you only have long-term rentals, do you want to add a short-term rental? Do you want to add commercial? Do you want to add stock investing? Have some diversification in there so that it can balance out the ebbs and the flows that happen all around.
Yeah, 100%. I had this conversation with my life insurance broker a couple of months ago. I'm paying a premium for a life term, and I'm like, I hate paying a premium. I hate paying this much. I would like to pay investing something else. And here's the conversation that he had with me. It's about diversifying. My situation, me and Dressa, with my age, with any health that I might or might not have, I'm currently a single mom. Where I live, where my family lives, all of this data leads to me doing exactly what I'm doing.
That's awesome.
Right? And
Look at you. Look at you.
Because I was like,
that's awesome.
As a real estate investor, it's not making sense. But here's what he was saying. It's like, there are different types of strategies for immediate return. medium return, long-term return, if some shit happen, return. So this is if something really, really happened to you, those are the steps that you already have put in place. So that doesn't mean that I looked at it and I consider different strategies as I am diversifying, investing S&P 500, looking at different real estate types of real estate investment that give me not one way to recoup my money, but several streams of income in one deal. We were just discussing different types of businesses that are, recession proof, that are going to be growing independently. So all of it, I think we need to demystify talking about diversification and investing, and making sure that this is not a lack of focus. I'm really focused, and that's the strategic planning, because a lot of people say, no, I want to just invest in this here. Otherwise, it's just like a shiny object. And what would you say to those folks, Anne?
I would say do what feels right for you, because you are spot on. There is no perfect way. You could also say, for example, I was talking with one of my coach friends who is an investing coach. She invested in real estate and it was not for her. She did not like having to do all the hands-on property management. And then she didn't like the loss of paying a property manager to manage for her. So she is only investing in index funds. That's her approach because she personally wants to live her life the most hands-off possible. So, lean into what makes the most sense for you. The other thing I would say that's really important that we haven't touched on when it comes to diversification is tax strategy. So definitely, if you're not already working with a CPA or someone to help you with your tax strategy, there are definitely different benefits if you're investing in real estate. Different types of real estate have different benefits. Investing in the stock market is a totally different game. So just know that there's tax implications, pros and cons to each one. So chat with someone if you're curious to see what's best for your situation.
Annie, this has been great. Appreciate you being on our show. Where can everyone listening learn more about you?
So my website is the best place to go. I'm at money-essentials.com. And there are tons of free resources on my website. We support women in reaching their money goals in every way possible. So we cover real estate, stock market investing, also career coaching and business development. So yeah, take a look there. All of my socials are linked there. And we are passionate about helping women reach their money goals. And real estate is definitely a huge part of that. It has been for me.
Awesome. Thank you again, Annie. Thanks so much.
Thank you.